Hello, my name is Sunjung, and I'm a product designer on the geo and the distribution team. Well, today I'm going to share with you what is the geo product, and then I will walk you through the UX scorecard work of the geo installation. Uh, So these are the list of people building the geo together and make geo better. Product manager is Fabian, who I think I and Fabian talk like every day. Of course, we collaborate a lot, we talk a lot. And also our engineering manager, Rachel and Jackie. And there's so many nice people in the team. And what we're currently building as Geo as a project, a product is, so we're currently focusing on the geo replication and disaster recovery. So geo is a really big topic, but today I would like to just focus on the geo replication part. So nowadays it's not surprising at all that all the distribution teams are the new norms. Well, but there could be some of the issues if they're relying on using it. Since the team locate over the different continents, there could be some decreased performance of accessing the same resource, and this could be very problematic. And it could be worse, especially for large organization with the big projects inside. Well, imagine that there is an imaginary company based in San Francisco, and they have another office in Amsterdam. And fetching the main project from the server located in San Francisco could take a long time from the office in Amsterdam. And based on some of the articles that I found on Google, well, if the project is big enough, it could even take around a few hours to just fetching the project. So, oh, sorry, where is it? So, I guess for that case, Geo could be a perfect solution. So let's say that imaginary company that I just mentioned before have the primary server located in San Francisco. So if they successfully set up the Geo nodes and the data from the primary node could be transferred to the secondary nodes, it's kind of like mirroring. And thanks to the mirrored feature, the secondary instance, so users in Amsterdam or any European-based office people, they can use it in a local and read-only instance, which will increase their productivity. Well, what our team expects is our user don't have to rely full on the network performance. And we believe that the geo replication will decrease the time of fetching the project, of course, and speed up the development cycle. And also the secondary node as the backup. And actually they can promote the secondary node if they need to. So this feature might be linked to in the future as the disaster recovery epic. And this feature is especially really valuable for the enterprise customers. So I would like to share my initial frustration. Like, it was exactly like the skip file. I had to grab every random text in my brain and try to understand the whole flow and every aspect of the product. And of course, it didn't work well at first time. So I started to digging into this topic by asking people around and reading the documents and articles, and then started to learn more about, of course, our target user. And based upon that knowledge, I started to list it up all the job to be done with the PMs. And based on the list that we picked, I started to dive into the word of the UX card finally. So I will show you how is the actual installation process of Geo from now on. Well, of course, our main target user group is sysadministrator named Sydney. And to elaborate in a better way, we always use this job to be done framework. So when Sydney is installing Geo, they want to complete the installation as quickly as possible so that they can start using and exploring Geo. So for better understanding, especially of myself, I needed to look into their environment first. So I captured secretly during one of the meetings that we have. And I would like to just kind of like share this experience because this is the most common behavior with 3 different interfaces. Yeah, starting to follow the instruction document on the documentation web, and then they copy the command line, and then they paste on the 2 different command line interfaces. The left one is the primary and the right one is the secondary one. So, well, this is the total end-to-end journey of Sydney for installation of Geo. Well, it honestly took me around, well, few working days, and it was not easy at all because it was kind of tricky since it's more like a linear process. So if I made some error, anyway, I should solve it for somehow, and if not, I could not move it forward. So that was really hard and challenging. But I don't want to walk you through in every details of each step because of the time, and it's very, very complicated. So I simplified the flow with this high level view with 5 big steps. So during the process, as I mentioned before, Sydney needs to open 5 different browsers or the window tabs. Those 5 interfaces are the Geo document with the instruction, and 2 different command lines for the primary and the secondary, and 2 different UI for the primary and the secondary. So in total, it was 5. And so the general user flow was like this, and Sydney needs to load the license of GitLab first because Geo is only available for the customer who has at least premium license or the top or better one, like ultimate one. So, and the next step was to set up the database replication for both primary node and the secondary node. And then they need to configure the SSH keys in the database to make the communication started. And then they need to reconfigure the nodes again. And the last step was on the UI finally, by confirming the replication worked really well without any errors. So this was the successful screen that I had seen. And I was almost like dancing and almost crying because it made me so happy. And I presume that probably Sydney, if they successfully install Geo, I feel they also feel the same. So everything, as you see, everything is green. It's like healthy status, meaning that the primary node and the project inside is copying to the secondary node successfully. So in summary, there were more than 63 interactions, and actually there were only 3 interactions on the Geo UI, and the others were happening on the command line and the documentation. And in total, interface required were 5, and approximate time of installing Geo was 1 day, 1 working day. So the contents of the instruction was very helpful because every comment was there on the right place. So it was not that hard. However, there were a lot of manual process, as you can imagine, on the mural board. And some of the process include like back and forth action over the different interfaces, starting from the document and the primary command line and the secondary command line, and go back to the primary UI. So this was not that comfortable enough. And additionally, it was not easy to navigate the instruction document on the web. It's kind of like I couldn't find the right step because it was hard to recognize like each step is ended or not. So the overall usability score, so UX score based on our grading rubric was D+. So based on the understanding from the scorecard, I needed to think about several points of improvements. So there were some small improvements that we can quickly move forward. And here is one of the examples that are currently building, thanks to our front-end developer, Zach. This is the first screen, the top one. When users don't have the right license, they will see this tooltip. So this was the before version, and this is the after version. So I put the button on the alert that will lead to the license management page under the admin area. And also in the long term, and ideally to reduce the number of steps, I believe we should introduce more automated scripts. And furthermore, since more than 30% of interactions were actually happening on the document web, I'd like to push some more changes like updating the contents and improving the navigation area of the documentation web itself. But still, there are a couple of restrictions, a couple of constraints that I have to keep in mind. It could be great if we can eliminate the number of interfaces itself, but there is very limited way for now to reduce the number of interfaces. And all the configuration should be done on each UI. So each command line interface. So we need to think more about it. And also and still it's very difficult for me to distinguish which action could be transferred on the UI and which are not, and which command line could be combined together and which are not. So that is still kind of like gray area for me. So the next step would be, I would really appreciate Eileen's help and her input on this to plan and conduct the user research to understand the current behavior of our user on the GUI and also in the terminal. And additionally, we're going to, and still I'm not that 100% aware of all the technical restrictions that we have. I would love to run the brainstorming session asynchronously with the team. So during this session, we can discuss and tackle together the technical challenges that we have. And based upon that, we can create a better user flow and probably providing some automated scripts if this is possible. So in the end, we would like to make the installation process way more simpler. And I would love to reduce that number 63 into like smaller, like half. That could be great. And thank you for listening. And I really appreciate, especially Jackie, Libor, Fabian, Rachel, and Eileen to help me to understand the product and supporting me to making this presentation better, and of course the whole GEO team. And if someone who interested in using this test instance with admin access, install Geo version, please send me your GitLab handle on my Slack that I can add you on my test instance server later. Thank you. Do you have any questions?